Hello, welcome back for another week of food pairing to go with our wines. In this case, extraordinary wines that are coming up this coming Saturday, which is May 30th. We are going to be doing something different on May 30th, which is that we are going to be hosting a brunch. So we're going to be live at 1 o'clock Pacific time on May 30th. We are going to be joined by a young man named Vincent Prudhomme. Vincent is, he and his brother are the makers of red and white wines in the small commune of Saint-Aubin in Burgundy. We will have a 2016 Saint-Aubin sur Gamay Blanc and also a 2016 Saint-Aubin sur le Sentier du Clou. Those are both premier cru vineyards, one of them Chardonnay, one of them Pinot Noir. We'll be very, very excited to open those two bottles of wine on Saturday at 1 o'clock with Vincent live and also with Mr. Rosenthal joining us as a translator. Neil has been importing the Prudhomme wines, I would say, since the mid-'80s at least. As such, because we are doing a 1 o'clock start time as opposed to our usual 6 o'clock, and we are sort of suggesting that people might want to eat brunch food, at least with the white Burgundy. I'm not sure that the dish that I'm about to do here is necessarily a red Burgundy dish, but it certainly will be a very great thing with white Burgundy. I have been thinking a little bit about breakfast foods. Breakfast for me is one of the highlights of the day, perhaps with lunch and dinner. This is to say, I really, really love breakfast. I am also a lover of eggs in just about every conceivable manifestation. Although when I was thinking about this yesterday, I was thinking that I think when it comes right down to it, if I had to pick, my top three cooking methods for eggs, they probably would be the three that occur to me as maybe the most sensitive, right? So while I love frittatas, and I love omelets, and I love fried eggs, and I love scrambled eggs, all those things, my three favorite ways to cook eggs are poached, soft-boiled, and soft-scrambled. And this morning I'm going to make myself some soft-scrambled eggs and do a quick demonstration of that. Soft scrambled eggs, for those of you who are experienced at making them, are not a hugely complicated thing. To my mind, when you get it just right, and the eggs have first of all the most important secret of soft scrambled eggs, which is that they have enough fat in them. It's nearly impossible to soft scramble eggs without a significant amount of fat in them. But when you get it just right, they are a pleasure, sort of unlike anything else, I think, in the gastronomical world. It's essentially, eggs and cream, you guys all know, is the base of a custard, right? So in spite of the fact that I'm not going to be working with any cream here per se today, when you work with eggs and cream and you put them into a skillet and you soft scramble them, you are essentially producing a kind of loose savory custard for toast or for potatoes or for whatever else you might want to eat with those soft scrambled eggs. I have a very, very petite little mise en place today because this is not a very complicated dish. It starts with butter. As I mentioned before, with fat, you don't want to go into soft scrambled egg production without a bunch of fat. I think cream is a particularly good idea. Cream allows you to use just a tiny little bit of butter in a pan, and you throw a couple of tablespoons of cream in. I am without cream today. That's okay because I like butter quite a lot. Olive oil is also possible, but truth be told, I think flavor-wise in the soft scrambled egg department, the dairy, if you can bear it. If you can't bear it, then we used to serve, I was working at a restaurant in Los Angeles called Campanile. We used to serve olive oil. Was it olive oil scrambled eggs or olive oil fried eggs? Anyway, olive oil and eggs, very, very delicious together. There's no question about that. And more days out of the week when I eat eggs, I'm eating olive oil because I have a feeling that it will help me, live to be 200 years old. I'm not. Yeah. Anyway, this is a little stick of Strauss unsalted butter. It's 4 ounces. I have carved off what is maybe an ounce of butter. And let me say something about this ounce of butter. It looks like a thick piece of butter maybe. I mean, it's tough to see on the video, but it's a good size, you know, pat. This is what would be called a good size pat of butter, right? There's two ways to think about that. One is, wow, that's more butter than I'm used to cooking with. Fair enough. You know, not a lot of people, they're cooking, you know, one portion of food, are going to drop a piece of butter this size into a pan. On the other hand, if you were to eat a piece of baguette, as I happen to have in the toaster oven right now, and let's say the baguette was, you know, 4 or 5 inches long, and it's a little skinny baguette, but you slice it, you toast it, you have it with your breakfast, and you butter it, you will go through, I think, at least this much butter. If you like butter, you'll go through at least this much butter, spreading it, you know, after it's tempered onto that baguette, right? This is a conversation that I used to have with a young woman in my life. My take on the soft scrambled eggs and the baguette is, when you are producing soft scrambled eggs that are really beautifully textured and that have this much butter in them, you don't really need any butter on your baguette, right? And she used to insist that the baguette absolutely has to be buttered in addition to the soft scrambled eggs. But what I'm suggesting is you take that dry, kind of crusty baguette, and you almost can kind of spread the soft scrambled eggs on the baguette, you know, or at the very least you're eating them together. In any case, a lot of butter with an asterisk, yes and no. Here is a little mise en place plate, tilted so that you can see it, a dainty, very spring-like mise en place plate. Fava beans, ramps, and a chèvre, a goat cheese that I dearly love, that's made by Soyoung Scanlon at Andante Dairy, and it's called Pastoral, and it's covered in herbs, and it's very delicious. A quick note about cheese and soft scrambled eggs. I'm doing something here which is maybe moving away from the classical approach. The classical approach to soft scrambled eggs is nothing but the eggs and the fat and a little bit of salt, and probably maybe a little cracked pepper over the top at the end, but virtually nothing else. The reason for that is that there is something amazing about the purity of those things, right? I am completely cheating here because I had a feeling that if I just came out here and, you know, just made some plain soft scrambled eggs, it wouldn't have the intrigue, you know, of adding a couple of other ingredients. One other thing I want to point out, this is, before I get started here, this is 2013 Henri Prudhomme Saint-Aubin Mergeur des Dents de Chêne, which is, these wines, I can't say enough about these wines. So if you're watching this and it's not Monday night yet, you should think about soft scrambled eggs and 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday, May 30th, and join us for these Prudhomme wines. 2 wines from 2016 vintage. I'm not sure that I have had one Prudhomme. We've had 16 Prudhomme sitting in the cellar now for a year or more. I'm not sure that I have tasted a single bottle. The reds just arrived. We've had whites for a year, but in any case, I think they're going to be really spectacular. I hope you'll join us. Okay, here we go. One thing before I get started, someone had asked last week or a couple of weeks ago about the best way to prep a fava bean. This is a fava bean pod. They are famous for being very, very time intensive in terms of the labor that's required to go through them. I'll do a very, very quick demonstration. The way to do it is to hold the pod itself. Don't worry about tearing the pod open. Put your thumb on one of the beans, right, and then break the pod and use your thumb that's on one of the beans to shoot it out. So you snap it and squeeze it and break it, right? And then before you know it, you're shooting beans all around the kitchen. And you get these little things, of course, and then it becomes very easy. These go into boiling water for maybe a minute and a half. They come out, they go into ice water, they peel extremely easily, and then they turn into these luscious little green, just one of the great textures in the food world. Okay, now we're ready to get started. Eggs, cheese, butter, ramps, fava beans, salt, pepper, my coffee, which is good. Sometimes I think about what I would say if I didn't have the coffee first. I'm not sure I'd be cogent. I put the toaster oven on. I'm going to put the stove on with a lower heat than usual, right? And we'll talk about that in a minute. Temperature is exceedingly important with this. I'm going to drop the butter in there. And then very quickly, ramps, quick word about ramps. 2 parts of the ramp. There is a bulb, and then there's this beautiful, very fragrant green leaf, right? The bulb, you treat a little bit like a somewhat stronger member of the allium family, like a shallot, for instance, right? And these delicious bulbs, which are going to add this kind of fresh, delicate allium flavor to these soft scrambled eggs, I'm just giving them a coarse chop now. As I mentioned, if you can't locate ramps in your market, that is completely fine. Shallots will be just wonderful. A little bit of just a standard yellow onion. The thing to do with this, because of the temperature that I was talking about, these ramp bulbs, they go just like that, right? I'm gonna put them in hot butter. They're gonna soften up immediately. I don't really wanna work with soft scrambled eggs. I don't want that butter to brown that's in the pan here. So right now this is just melting. And I'm gonna drop these ramp bulbs in. As I say, those are gonna go very quickly in that pan. If you were to slice up an onion and cook it, you would wanna pre-cook it, right? And then add the sort of the roasted onion at the last minute, rather than roasting the onion and then dropping the eggs into that same pan. The most important tool with my soft scrambled eggs this morning is this rubber spatula, right? You'll see why. A quick word, I sometimes work with a non-stick pan. You want to work with a non-stick pan, you will get soft scrambled eggs. It'll be a little bit more difficult. You don't have to use quite as much fat, but because you're not using as much fat, you have to be very, very careful. Because soft scrambled eggs go to medium scrambled eggs with that little bit of dryness around the edge in an instant. It doesn't take long at all. This butter is now pretty warm. The bulbs are where they need to be. I'm going to drop the fava beans in, make sure that they get warmed through in this process. Then I have my eggs, my cheese, and I have a little bit of reserved chiffonaded ramp leaf here, which I'm going to garnish maybe along with some of that black pepper. My salt ready to go. Now I'm going to turn the heat down even more. The pan is nice and hot. Turn the heat down even more and go in with the eggs. Now, one thing you do not want to see when those eggs go into the pan is some of that, the eggs coming up around the edge and sort of cooking around the edge. That has to happen very, very slowly. This is a slow process, right? My little baguette is ready. Now maybe if you have experience cooking eggs, you can tell by the amount of time that this is taking, right? I'm stirring, I'm making sure that the cooked bits get away from the bottom of the pan. And then when there is virtually no liquid left, right? At this point, I'm gonna pull this off of the stove. I'm gonna sprinkle in some of this beautiful pastoral cheese, which is then going to melt a little bit in those eggs. And then I'm going to spoon out this beautiful soft scrambled with nice amount of butter and salt. I have a little toasted baguette. I have some chiffonaded ramp leaves. Could throw a little black pepper on this. And who would not like to receive this on a Saturday morning with a glass of Saint-Laurent Blanc before 1 o'clock, before Saturday wine gets started? I'm not sure, but if you were to sit down and have your computer open and this was being served to you right at 1 with a glass of 2016 Sir Gamay Blanc Premier Cru, that would not be the end of the world. Thank you again for watching these things. I hope you have a terrific week, and I hope you'll join us on Saturday. Take care.